Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And what do you know? I still ended up not listening to the recording, so I still don't know how the audio is going to sound, which is great, isn't it? Anyways, what else is new? I actually got it where I needed to get it. I just never thought to do it. Today went by pretty quickly, pretty chill. There wasn't, I don't know, it was a nice day, a nice way, a nice day and a nice way to coast through a Monday. It was not a mundane Monday. All right, sorry. What I'm getting at is I think today I had a pretty interesting realization about things. As you guys know, or I'm not certain if I've mentioned this on the show before or not, but I really like the iPhone Air. I think that's probably the best phone ever created. And then, you have your counterpart to it, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge, which is, basically Androids Go at the same concept. Now, neither of these phones performed well sales-wise, which is tragic, it's sad, it's pitiful. For humanity's sake, it's a pitiful thing, it's a pitiful situation that humanity has to go through. I mean, we could be further ahead. We could really be shifting the direction of the market. Smaller batteries, thinner phones, lighter phones, and most importantly, nicer phones. But instead, we wish to continue to perpetuate this same pattern. This same silly pattern of making the thing heavier and bigger and thicker. For what? I don't even understand. I never have any battery issues with my phones. I don't know what issues humans have, but they have some kind of a problem, some kind of a pitiful, putrid problem that must be addressed. It must be addressed. So, anyways, I'm rambling. I'm kind of joking. I'm not really being serious. I mean, people do bother me. That's not really a joke, but I'm not really sure what I can do about it. So it is like I don't know. I can't do anything about it other than continue to advocate for these thin and light phones and just advocate for people to have the right stuff. That's really the main kind of takeaway. I don't really know what else to comment on there, but yeah. I guess it is what it is. I still keep saying that as a default. I don't like it. I don't like that that's programmed so deeply into my mind. I'm just not a fan of it, but I want these phones to flourish and prosper. And they just don't, and people just don't care about them, but they're really impressive and amazing devices. And for a long time in my life, I haven't liked gift giving. The reasons why I personally think make sense. It's because gift giving is very difficult these days. Everybody has very specific and personalized things that they want. So you have a gift idea in the past, and since we were more in a monoculture and people were generally not as spoiled, it's fine because like stuff was pretty broad. People were pretty broad in terms of what they wanted and what they cared about. Humans and people were pretty broad. And so it was easy to get somebody a gift. Somebody wants this, somebody wants that. People are complicated now. People are much more complicated than they once were. In some ways, I guess people can still be general. Some people still just really appreciate a gift. But I think as a whole, we're overall just more numb. We're more numb to gifts. We get used to being spoiled by algorithms and phones that, and this kind of ties into what I recently had a commentary on where, you know, somebody gives a gift and then their feelings are hurt by it. And then that causing a problem, you know, because some people don't really appreciate it. Although I guess a good thing to note that I can't really believe I glossed over this in that episode is that it is in a way you could say it's selfish to be upset over somebody not appreciating a gift, because a gift is inherently supposed to be given without any idea of any kind of anything in return. I can't believe I didn't mention that in that video. It somewhat solves the complexity a little bit, but I still think the conundrum, it does still exist where, yeah, it's difficult and it's still probably not really worth it to be honest with somebody if they don't like a gift and like tell them off. Even if you do it nicely, it's kind of not really, you know, so. But it is true. I mean, a person, I guess it's not super valid for a person to get that upset over a person's lack of appreciation, because a gift is supposed to be a gift anyway. It's not supposed to matter whether it's appreciated or not. But, you know, of course, there's always extra complexity to these kinds of circumstances. So it's not like that's, I don't know, the only thing, or yeah, there's going to be other additional logic at play. So now, anyways, what we're talking about is, this is part of the reason why I don't like gift giving, because for me, I really would want to make sure that it's a good gift. You know, if I'm going to, because for me, I feel scarce about money and I worry about money. So for me to buy somebody a gift, it better mean something. You know what I'm saying? But that's the whole problem. I think, too, it's kind of a problem with me, and I've thought about it today, where I do have that problem. I feel like it's very difficult for me to do stuff that doesn't have a return. But the truth is that even though I've said we should be designing things in a way that minimizes risk, because it will lead to better outcomes, generally speaking. We have seen the best of humanity emerge when this is the case? I think I bring up, hospitals, right? They remove risk. If you don't have hospitals, if you don't have large doctor hospital networks, then things are going to be much riskier. Certain people might not get coverage and might die. It's not beneficial for humans. Because with genetics and how our variability is, a special person could be born into a poor environment, and if there's no safety net to keep them around, then it's not really very conducive to the human condition, is it? But that's another discussion. The point is, I think I hold too much weight with things. And in a way, I don't know that it's all my fault, because it's just true. I mean, and that's just my feelings about it. Like, I want there to be weight to things. I want there to be significance and meaning. This is what I want at my core, And so that's just me. That's just what I want. At my core. I don't understand what I'm talking about. Sorry. Right, gift giving. It's always just been something uncomfortable to me. Now, I feel like it's fair because I don't really expect gifts from other people. But I think I've realized kind of what the problem is. I think the problem is that because of how stingy and worried about money I get, in conjunction with the fact that I don't really see gifts as all that significant, that's why I don't like giving gifts, because the truth is most gifts just are. It becomes sort of like a ritual where, you constantly have to get somebody something, and, Sorry, let me rewind a little bit, because I think the present understanding is pretty important that I just thought of, Well, I didn't just think of it, I actually thought of it earlier today. But yeah, I mean, most people, I think they do just take things moment by moment. They don't think like me, where you get worried about the future, you worry about this, you worry about that. It has its advantages. I'm able to calculate some things that other people might not be able to, and have certain advantages. But what good are those advantages if I can't ever relax? And so I think that is the mental exercise to really start to think about, maybe not think about fairness so much. Not that it's a bad thing at all, and it's important to keep in mind, especially with the society we're facing, but maybe just not so much. Maybe just accept the fact that there's going to be times you invest into something and don't get anything out of it, As much as I still think that's the ultimate system, you create a society, you create a humanity where you set up systems where if you work and you work hard, you're rewarded proportionately. And there's a consistency there. There's not a risk. There's not like, well, you could work hard, but then you might die because health insurance is weird. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It matters. It matters to be able to give people hope and consistency. It matters. And that's what I'm talking about. But All that being said, that's the ideal. That's how the system should be constructed, but it's not. The system isn't constructed in this way. What the system does is actually now perpetuate how lucky people are, how things are lucky, or what actually makes things lucky or not lucky. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm tired. Lucky, not lucky. But yeah, basically the way society is now, there's no reason for me to not just get used to it and learn to live freely, learn to live peacefully, to accept that this is the way things are, and to live each moment by each moment. I think a lot of people don't really have too much expectations. And this is one of the things that I would mention actually a lot. I remember in the beginning of this thing about how important expectations are, and how, as a society, we need to actually have higher expectations because it prevents problems. But I'm starting to realize now that there's a difference between no expectations and low expectations. Those are two very different things. And I think it is genuinely difficult for a human to have no expectations. It's easy for us to have low. It's not easy for us to have no. Because in order to have no expectations, you would have to be quite familiar with your surroundings. Quite familiar. And if you aren't, well, with yourself. I don't know why I said surroundings. I guess both, but mainly yourself. If you're not, what we do is we have high expectations, and then those end up being too high, and then we have to try to lower them. So we just lower them, but then that's not necessarily good, because now we're like having low expectations, and that doesn't really feel great. But to actually have no expectations, I think it would mean living in some type of peace. It probably would be achieving the present moment, where whether the thing happens or it doesn't, there's no expectations. That's very different than low expectations. And it gets so difficult for a human to do this. How do we have low? How do we have no and not low? How do we have neither here nor there? How do we have neither up nor down? An omission from the duality that presents itself in this reality. An omission. How do we square this? I think I've caught it with myself. I think, again, a typical human usually errs on the side of the present moment. It's why you don't see people as upset right now, because, people really should be, based on the fact that the economy is going to crumble and we really need to start preparing, but people just aren't going to do that. And it's better for mental health, but it's not going to be better for systemic or special help. I don't know if I'm making up a word when I said that, but I thought it sounded kind of cool. Special help. Like for the species. It's not helpful for the species. Yeah, I don't know if that's a term or not, but I think it sounds pretty cool. I can't lie. Special help. What am I getting to? Let me let me cut to the chase about my revelation about gift giving. I think that the reason why I don't like giving gifts is because it's because I'm stingy, but it's because the gifts I would actually enjoy giving are too expensive. So then I just don't bother. But I was thinking about these phones, and I was thinking how much I would actually love to give somebody a phone as a gift. Not only is this a huge gift, it's a phone that I believe in the identity of. I know I would see it with them. Like, I'd like to be buying everybody's phone for them, And that's kind of my gift, and that should really set me for them and their gift for years, for like 10 years. That's their birthday gift. Boom. I don't have to get them a birthday gift every year because I bought their phone for them, and it looks cool. It looks very cool. I think so. And it's significant. It's like, think about how cool it would be if somebody got you a phone as a gift. Think about how cool that would be. And every time you use it, which is every day, you get reminded of the moment of having the phone. Like, this is legit a cool thing. It's a really cool idea. And I don't know, we don't really think about it with gifts, but what about gifts that are essential like that? Everybody needs a phone. And it becomes, for many people, because many people don't even get new phones all that frequently. Some people hang on to their phone for years, and for many people, the phone is a cherished thing for years. They always have it on them. And think about how cool that would be, that something you take with you every day was gifted to you. It was a gift. It wasn't something you had to buy on your own. And you think of the person and what they did for you. It really is a kind thought. And there's not a lot of gifts that can really rival that. Of course, if you gifted somebody a car, that's pretty nice. Now, the thing with all of this is it takes a significant amount of generosity. It would be difficult for me to give somebody such a nice phone as a gift. It would be difficult. But generosity is important, because I've tried really hard to obviously optimize to get all these things of my own, and I've purchased them myself, and I have a lot of the things I've wanted, and that's cool, that's nice. But really, what good is it? It's still not the things that I value most in life, the things that I value most and would like most. These are socializing. Part of my whole point on this show and most of the revolving features of what I'm talking about is wishing that the world seemed more real, that things seemed more living and we had more living experiences. And I realized that as much as I love these fancy things that I have, they're still inanimate. But if you give somebody a precious gift that really leaves an impact, you are leaving that person an imprint of yourself. They will think of you. Every single time. It's seriously crazy to think about that. And for me, if I buy myself another phone, how would that really do much for me? Like, it's not really going to do anything. People who become wealthy, and of course we all fantasize about, oh, like I could have multiple cars. You know, some people have like these giant garages of cars and they're all for, but think about how much you would touch a person to give them a special car. To give. It's honestly potentially more valuable because you're creating such a positive social moment. Whereas if you just have something for yourself, it's yours, but you're not going to be that crazy about it. So it's interesting when you think about generosity and how it could be an important key and a potential improvement to my social situations. If I gift people these really nice things, the people close to me, that could be more valuable than me having these things myself. Because if you treat yourself well, it's like, you know, I don't know. But what if I bought somebody else a phone instead of buying myself a phone? That's going to impact that person in a way that I'm not really going to be all that fazed if I buy myself a phone. But if I bought a friend, let's say like a friend that couldn't even afford a nice phone, if I bought them a nice phone, think about how much like meaning that would have, how much impact it would have, you know? It just makes you think. It really makes you think about these things. And it's interesting because I've had these opinions about, you know, it's probably not great to give people gifts because you want to teach people to work or this or that, but I don't know, you know? I just don't know. But for me, it seems like such a drop in the bucket. And it's really reshaping my views on these things because, you know, before I'm so stressed, I'm so worried about my money, whether I'm going to be homeless or not, whether I'm going to end up on the street. I need my own equipment. I'm materialistic in my own ways. And yet, when I just pause to think on it a little bit, is this really what makes me happy? Like having all this equipment? Or would I be happier if I had some of these profound, extreme social experiences and gifts? It's true. You really could change it. And it's, in a way, I guess, the reason why I've been so apprehensive is I see it as superficial. It's like you're buying your way into a friend, but that's really not completely what it is. You know, this is assuming you're already close with a person and you're just getting them like a really nice, expensive thing, and how much it would impact them. And like I said, it's like every day people use their phone and they'd think like, wow, you know, my cousin got me this really nice phone, or my best friend got me this really nice phone. And you would think of them all the time. Think about what that would do for the relationship. In a way, it's superficial, but it goes without saying, right? It completely goes without saying. I don't know. Just think it's so interesting to think about because, again, when it comes to my perspective on these things, it's been more rigid or closed off. And it's not. It's seeming like now I'm actually considering generosity because I'm seeing how it can actually have a greater impact on myself. In a way, maybe that's selfish, but I don't really see it as that, because that's the whole point. You also could give somebody the gift and it not mean anything. They might not treat you any different or look at you any differently. And you have to have that expectation too, or else it's not a true gesture. But it's going to impact things, and it's really going to make some people genuinely appreciative and happy in a big way. So it's why I found out why gifts have been tricky for me. You know, that's why. Because I think what I would have needed in order for a gift to really land and have impact and power, it would have cost so much that I get too squeamish and scared to do it. And then I don't want to get an insignificant gift, so then I just don't bother. And that's kind of what happens. But I'm realizing now why. And I think I know, you know, deep down what I want and what I would want to do for people. So I'm obviously not going to make any super hasty decisions because it would be pretty expensive to do so. But, you know, it's definitely food for thought, thinking about generosity in this way. Anyways, it has been Schla, and now it's time to buy Schla. So, see you, Schla.